Hi, everybody. Angel here. Thanks so much for joining. And today we will be speaking with Emily of Plant Forward. So I'm looking forward to our conversation. And we'll get started in a moment. Hi there. How
Hi,
are
how are
you?
you?
Fine. How are
Good,
you?
good, thanks.
Good, good. I am playing with filters.
Awesome. I see all the avocados
There we go.
over there.
And I have pinned our topics down below in the comment section just to kind of help to follow along. And I want to thank you so much for taking the time. I know everybody's busy, and so thanks so much for coming on to chat with us.
Thanks for
And
having
thank you. And as people join, I'll just pause and say hi, and then we can continue.
me. Okay, sounds
Awesome.
good.
So while we wait for others to join, I think we should get started because we do have a lot of topics to cover. And
hmm
the first topic, Emily, that I wanted to ask you about is if you could share with us, please, your vegan journey, how you started, and how you ended up to where you are today.
Sure. So my vegan journey, well, I've always wanted to be vegan ever since I was little. It's this thing that I just always wanted to be. So I first went vegetarian at 8. And I figured out I was lactose intolerant around probably 12. So I was a lactose intolerant vegetarian that didn't like to eat eggs. So I basically
So you were a vegan, yes.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I would have some pizza here and there with cheese. I was very much I don't eat meat. But I was always battling this thing. It never made sense to me to eat animals. It just for some reason I didn't understand it. And so I always told myself when I live on my own, when I move out, I will be vegan. I'll be fully vegan and I'll do it. And so it's been about 8 or 9 years where I've been fully 100% vegan. So that was kind of my journey.
Wow.
It evolved over probably 20, 21 years.
No, but I can really relate because when I was growing up, I didn't really like what we call red meat. And so I
hmm
would gravitate more towards what we call white meat or fish. And then like whenever, we went out like on the weekends for, fast food, I would always take, choose the lightest possible. So when they came out with like fish sandwiches, and I would choose that. And in my
hmm
late teens, when I was in university, I wanted to be a vegetarian. So I switched to vegetarianism. But when I went back home for the holidays, there was a bit of a rub and they were worried. No way, you can't, give up all those foods. You need to eat all these foods. And so I kind of caved and I just went back to eating everything. And then when I went back to university, I just, went back to a vegetarian because I didn't know anything about veganism back then. So I can
hmm
definitely relate to your, struggle, quote unquote. And I just think it's just amazing that you took that, step and that decision so early. That's impressive.
Yeah, I actually had a teacher in grade 3 that was a vegetarian. And we would have silent reading time. And so he used to put out PETA magazines, which I don't know if that's, 20 years ago, I don't know if that was an okay thing. But yeah, he did it. And I remember seeing a PETA magazine and a pig going onto a slaughter truck. And that was the moment where I was just thinking, I can't, like, what is this? I don't understand. This is not something I want to do. So I remember being so excited to go home and tell my mom, I want to be a vegetarian. And her response was, what?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You want to be a what?
yeah, yeah.
But
No,
she was very supportive.
oh, well, shout out to your mom and kudos to your mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. No, and that's so interesting. Like you say, that was kind of revolutionary back then, though, to like, share PETA material.
Yeah, for sure, especially as a teacher. But he was very vocal with his views, and I always think of him. He's kind of like that teacher that stayed in my brain. And I even went back, I think when I was in high school, and because I used to donate my money to the local humane society for my birthday. And I wanted to tell him, all my passion and everything I love about animals, I'm doing it because of you. And I almost made him cry when I told him that. So it was kind of a cool, kind of full circle moment. So yeah,
Oh, well then,
kind of nice.
sorry?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, no.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's kind of nice when you get to, have these moments where you realize what kind of influenced you in your life and how it led you to be where you are. It's kind of a cool thing.
Totally. And shout out to your teacher.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome, awesome. So, I apologize for the street noise, but I think they're done
No
now.
problem.
So, let's go to our next question, please, which is intuitive eating. So, you focus on intuitive eating. And if you could share with us, I guess, what is intuitive eating, why it's so important, why do you promote intuitive eating?
For sure. So intuitive eating is basically a framework around eating that removes the idea of dieting and diet culture. So it basically empowers you or, the person who is trying to be more of an intuitive eater to go back to basics and to have trust in their body and to acknowledge that their body has signals. We have hunger cues. We know when to eat. We know when to stop eating. We know what feels good. But in our society, in this diet culture kind of framework, we are told how to eat, when to eat, what to eat. And it really plays a big role in a distrust with our body. And so I'm very, very passionate about it because I'm a holistic nutritionist. And when I first started my practice 2 years ago, I was so excited to get out there and, put everyone on a meal plan and tell everyone what to eat. And, everyone's going to eat so many more vegetables and fruits. And I was just so excited. And the more I worked with people, there was something that no matter what I said, no matter how they looked, no matter what, people were never satisfied with their body. And I didn't understand. I was like, what am I missing? They're eating all the right foods, they're doing, all the right things, but it didn't matter. And so I started going on a journey because it's kind of like this reflection with myself, no matter how good I ate, no matter, how many fruits and vegetables I did, I still kind of had this distrust and this not good enough feeling with my own body. And so I mirrored this kind of these things I was seeing with my clients. And I kind of went on this spree of how do I learn more about the psychology of eating and the psychology around food. And there's not a lot out there. It is an emerging science. But I found these two dietitians that coined the term and the practice of intuitive eating. And I just dove into it. I read the book, I did the courses, and I became an intuitive eating counselor. And that took me about a year. And so now I'm so passionate about it when I'm working with clients to also add that piece in with intuitive eating to bring that trust back to their bodies and to give them the power. Like we are all our own nutritionists. We are our experts in our own body. And so that just really fueled this passion about intuitive eating and also within the vegan community as well. Because, there's some things where people say, fruit's bad and don't eat after this time and all of this diet culture stuff we can find in the vegan community. So that was kind of my reason for getting into intuitive eating and why it's important.
No, I applaud you because I feel like you are, and all of your colleagues in intuitive eating are like going against the grain, like swimming upstream because, we're told we need breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We're told we need snacks in between. Like you referenced or alluded to, we're told that sugar is bad, that fruits are bad because there's too much sugar, not even differentiating or distinguishing between like fructose, sucrose, all of that processed junk sugar, blah, blah, blah. But also like you guys are really like, you have an uphill battle because like to trust oneself and not just with eating, but just in general in life, to trust oneself and one's inner essence, I guess, is super hard. Like, cause
Yeah,
there's so much chatter. There's just so much media.
there really is. And it's the culture we're brought up into. It's our society. It's how our parents lived. It's what we're taught to do. And so going against that kind of culture and that mainstream way of thinking when it comes to food and life in general, it can be really empowering, but it is also very challenging. And it's something where people have to be ready to do, or they can dip their toes into it and kind of start learning about it. But when you're fully ready to commit, it can be completely life-changing. And that's the most incredible thing. And it's empowering, going against these oppressive systems that, you know, keep us feeling really bad in our bodies and keep us, you know, perpetuating these narratives that just, you know, aren't very healthy for our own bodies and minds.
Yeah, and one last point that came to mind when you were speaking too, like on certain, you know how they say, well, you need a certain number of calories per day. So I'm just going to make this up, you know, 1,800 calories per day. But, you know, that could vary too on like your exercise levels, you know, whatever's going on with you, right? You know, whatever you're doing that particular day. So just to kind of have like, you know, these, I guess these, you know, hard and fast rules also, you know, that doesn't help in terms of intuitive eating.
No, exactly. And so, you know, if someone's on Weight Watchers and they only have a certain amount of points in a day
Oh,
and
yeah.
they're hungry when they run out of the points, it's teaching them not to listen to that hunger cue. Or if someone says, okay, only eat between 12 and 6, well, if that feels good for your body, great. But if you're hungry before noon or you're hungry after, or, you know, after 6, you're allowed to eat. And so all of these rules, all of these, you know, and they don't really stem from a health perspective. They stem from this wellness, you know, selling you a diet, selling you all of this stuff that we really don't need to bombard our minds with, because we're born intuitive eaters and we're kind of trained out of that and into diet culture. So yeah, it's quite the thing.
No, but that last part, because I also heard someone else mention something similar to what you just said, that we're born intuitive eaters. And it's like, you know, when we're babies, we cry when we're hungry.
Hmm.
And then mom comes running, and or whoever the caregiver is, and then, you know, we're fed, right? And then we're all happy and everything. And then we kind of, you know, doze off or whatever, you know, babies do. And then, you know, X amount of time later, we're hungry again. And then we whack, you know, and then, you know, so it's like our bodies know what to do.
Exactly, exactly. We're trained to not know what to do.
Totally, totally.
Kind
Yeah.
of, yeah, it's a bit backwards.
It's crazy, right? I just want
Yeah.
to say hi to whoever else is on the line. And if you do have questions for Emily, please pop them down below. And thanks so much for joining. And while we wait for a question or questions, we'll go to our next topic, which is your recipes. What's the inspiration behind your recipes?
That's a good question. I think my inspiration behind my recipes is quick and easy. And I've never been a good recipe follower. I don't know why. I can't, yeah, I just can't do it. You know, I'll try, I really will try because something will look really good. And I always like, oh, I can just add a little bit more of this, or oh, I'll try this. So I always like to give creativity. If I'm ever giving a recipe, you know, make it your own. If this is something that you want to alter or add things to, I'm all for it. So I'm all about kind of giving people the basics and then they can do whatever they want to make it theirs. So that's kind of my inspiration, and also bringing in some, you know, nutritious foods, nutritious aspects to different recipes. And because I was vegetarian for so long and now vegan for almost a decade, I think I also try to veganize things, which I'm sure you do too,
Yes,
and most vegans do, but
yes.
try and make vegan foods taste good and more accessible is kind of my inspiration behind the recipes.
No, but that's awesome because a lot of times people crave what they used to eat, you know, on the standard
Mm.
diet or even on a vegetarian diet. And so I think it's awesome that you try to, you know, veganize it. But like you say, you know, you kind of encourage people, from what I can tell, you're encouraging people to make it their own, be
Hmm.
creative. I think it goes back to like trusting yourself. So for example, I love loads of herbs and spices. And so like when I'm making smoothies or soups or whatever, I just like I'm just like pouring all these different herbs and spices, depending on what I feel like that day, to be honest with you, how cold it is, how warm it is, whatever, right? Or what the ingredients are. So I can definitely relate. Like it's really cool to encourage people to be creative.
Yeah, absolutely. And same if I ever, make a meal guide for people, I always say, this is 7 days. I don't want you to have to eat this way for the rest of your life. This is a guide. This is something that you can take and play with and make it your own and make it sustainable in your life. So it's the same thing I do with my recipes, giving kind of that empowerment to people to create their own and to figure out what tastes good and what feels good in their body is, I think, a really important aspect of trying new foods and putting out these messages and putting out these recipes for sure.
That's awesome. Awesome. Thank you. So let's go next to your blog. If you could tell us a bit about your blog, please.
Sure. I started my blog 2 years ago, and it very much, again, started out with, I want everyone to have all this information, about health and nutrition and tips and all of this stuff, which I still super appreciate and I still do sometimes. But it's evolved more into talking about intuitive eating, talking about veganism, talking about sustainable practices within just our lifestyles and also within the way we eat. Talking about, weight-related stigmas, all that type of things. And I'm very much an intuitive writer. It's not really a thing, but same with my content. I don't plan it. It's just kind of, if I want to write about something, today, I just write about it, and that's kind of how it flows. I don't really have a plan for any of it.
No, I love it. And then, because and also because something you might just like get some inspiration. Maybe you heard something. I don't know. You were out at a party. Well, we're not really doing much about with parties these days, but you might be out picking up a coffee or picking up something or just out and about, and you might hear something like, wow, that's inspirational. Let me write about that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah.
go with the flow.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's talk a little bit more about your meal plans. You did mention, in a previous little topic there about your meal plans, but is there anything else you want to say more about your meal plans?
Yeah, so I do create custom meal plans, yeah, I try and call them guides. So I have an option where someone just fills out a survey, basically tells me what they like, what they don't like, what their goals are, what type of eater they are, if they want quick recipes, lengthy recipes, what they're trying to achieve, and then I create a custom kind of meal guide for them. And then also when I'm working one-on-one with my clients, I also offer the meal guides as well. And they come with recipes and grocery lists and everything.
Awesome. So, is there anything else that you want to share about your nutrition coaching? For example, some coaches really, zoom in and focus on women. Other coaches zoom in and focus on, I don't know, more of the athletic type, the folks who like to work out. Do you have a particular segment or a particular focus in your nutrition coaching?
Yeah, I would definitely say my kind of niche is teaching vegans how to eat intuitively. So I work with all different types of people who are looking to kind of dismantle diet culture and dismantle, stop the obsession with food. And because especially if you're a vegan, you obviously stand for more than just leaving animals off your plate. You stand for a better world, less cruelty to animals. And I like to call myself an intersectional vegan. So I'm very much all of the oppressions, the underlying roots are quite related. And so to be a vegan is to stand up for so much. And if we're constantly bombarded and constantly just focused on food, and eating the right amount of calories and obsessed with not being able to eat chips and just stuck in diet culture, we can't dismantle all these other big systems of oppression. And so my main goal is to help people out of that so that they can move forward and free their brain for other things, and hopefully bring more to their veganism or to how they show up in the world other than just kind of being stuck in diet culture.
Wow. Well, first of all, I just want to pause and say hi to everybody who's joined. Thank you so much. And if you have questions or comments for Emily, you can just pop them down in the comment section below and she'll be happy to answer. And while we wait on questions or comments, I want to applaud you for bringing up intersectionality because I have seen this more and more in the vegan world, which is most of my world. And I really applaud all of you who are focusing on intersectionality and trying to make a difference. I would call it across the board, or in many different areas. And I have been very surprised, or I should say, I've been learning a lot more, even like in the fashion world.
Hmm.
I attended like a vegan fashion online event because with this global pandemic, they had to do it online. And, it was really so helpful to look at topics like, you know, different oppressed, populations, or even like, are the, clothing factories respecting fair trade, fair wages, things like that, right? Or even in the, animal agriculture industry in terms of the, the unfortunate situation where a lot of people in that industry are of a certain, um, I'll just say profile or background. And so again, I applaud you for or even environmentalism, sustainability. I just think it's really awesome because we're not in silos, it's not in isolation, everything is connected.
Absolutely, for sure. And I think we have more of a what's the word? Kind of more of an opportunity to bring more people into a movement when we're able to include more people and we're able to say, yes, animals are oppressed and animals have a horrible, horrible, position in our world. But at the same time, there's all of these other forms of oppression that other people care about and that we can also care about as vegans. And so we kind of create a commonality for marginalized beings in general. So it's kind of a really cool field of study and way of looking at veganism and kind of approaching veganism. It's definitely changed the way I show up as a vegan. The more I look into it and read about it, same like with disability and veganism, ableism, there's so many different interconnections that we can, combine with veganism. So it's kind of neat.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned disability because someone else mentioned that last week as well, that she focuses on disability awareness. And,
Mm.
I would call it like inclusion, in other words, where, well, back in the day, we used to call it inclusion. I don't know what people call, I guess it's called intersectionality nowadays. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's awesome that you are, trying to, again, cover as many bases as you can with
Yeah.
the platform. Everyone has a certain platform, and you're really just trying to cover as many bases as you can.
Yeah, for sure. And my goal's always been bring awareness. I think knowledge is power, and we don't talk about these things. We don't talk about, we don't talk about animal lives. We don't, well, we do because we're vegans, but most people don't. And I very much am all about awareness and bringing, people's attention to what actually happens. How does the clothes get to your front door? How does your food get to your plate? Where do the parts of your car come from? And we can't be perfect. And it's not about being perfect, but it's about acknowledging and doing our best with the privileges that we hold, so that we can move towards and hopefully create a better, more sustainable world in many different ways. So yeah, it's a big topic and a big thing to tackle, but I think it's just bringing awareness is the biggest thing, key.
Totally, totally. So let's go to our next topic, which is, how do you handle naysayers, critics, people who are not really in favor of our vegan diet and lifestyle? How do you handle that?
Um, Honestly, Now, I just don't spend my energy on them. I used to, I used to show up and get super defensive, and I used to say like, "Oh, do you know what you're eating?" and blah 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 blah. And it really got me nowhere, and it made me more frustrated than anything. And so now, I show up as who I want to be, as, making the decisions that I feel confident in, that are aligned with my values, and I'm doing my best to align my values with my choices. And if someone is a naysayer or has something negative to say, I would rather just have a conversation with them and say, hey, like, I understand you feel this way, but can we talk about it? If you don't want to talk about it, that's cool. And also just being confident with the fact that everyone is unique and everyone's going to have an opinion and we can't please everyone. So yeah, there will always be those people and you just kind of got to let it go.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, I like the way you're basically saying, you meet them where they are, but you're also
Yeah.
like setting your own example. And when they're ready, they're gonna come to you.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Definitely. I've experienced that in my life for sure. And I think we do more good with our actions and people see our actions. And then when they're ready, they will ask you about it and they will be curious about it. What are you eating? Or why do you do this? Or why do you do that? And then, they're opening the door rather than just constantly trying to, I wouldn't say force, but bring these things to people's minds all the time because I don't think people like that very much. So yeah, meeting
Yeah,
people where they are.
yeah, yeah. And not everyone's ready. And I was listening to a podcast the other day, and the guest said something like, people don't like to be told what to do either. So there's
Mhm.
that aspect of it too. So I think your approach is best, and I actually try to do that too. Like, I don't say, hey, what you're doing is terrible, that kind of thing. I just kind of say, well, I feel great. I
Yeah.
seen this list of improvements, and I really don't even go very much, honestly, into animal cruelty unless they want to, unless they open the door for me to go there, and then I start, but I don't, I really do, try to tread lightly with some people, because some people are very, they feel like they're being attacked, that their whole life,
Mhm.
what they've been doing for X number of years, is under attack.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. It's that cognitive dissonance, and I had this thought the other day, if everyone could watch a 10 or 20-second video before they bought something and they knew where it came from, what it affected, and then and I had that thought for, food and cars and clothing, but then I realized vegans are that 10 to 20-second video. We're that person that's breaking that cognitive dissonance for a few seconds and making people really uncomfortable, and that's why they get so defensive. And it took me a long time to learn that, but yeah, it definitely brings people out of their comfort zone, and people don't like that.
No, I think that's brilliant what you just said, though, to be honest with you. And I had a situation the other day where someone, they've been eating plants for 6 days out of the week, which I think is just awesome. And I really applaud them for doing that. And they said, well, this particular day they were going to go and eat some meat, some animals, as I would call them now. And I said, well, and they said to me, well, I know you're not too, you won't want to hear that. And I said, well, basically I wouldn't do it, but you got to, you do what you're going to do. And, again, I really encourage them and pump them up. I applaud you for, eating plants, 6 days of the week. And, I think I'm just like happy that, you saved all those other animals. So, I'm not going to sit there and wag my finger at people.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's a good approach.
Yeah, yeah. So I want to say hi and thanks to everyone on the line. And if you have questions or comments for Emily, just pop them down below and she'll be happy to answer. And while we wait, let's go to newbies, vegan friendly, vegan curious people who come to you. And I know you're a coach, I know you're a nutritionist, but what do you say to folks who, I guess your advice for folks who want to get started on their vegan journey?
Yeah, it's a good question. I always start with a why. I think people should always have a why. Because if you don't have a why, then the next time pizza comes around and there's bacon and cheese on it, you're gonna feel like, oh, wow, you know, that tastes really good. And I always come back to my why. Even now, I still do. And so I think that's the number one thing is, what is your why? Why do you want to do this? Because this isn't a diet. This is a, you know, a lifestyle. This is standing for something. And you have to have a why to be able to stand firm in that against a culture that is, you know, 99.9% opposite. So that's my number one tip. And then my second one is pick a meal of the day and start there. So whether it's breakfast, whether it's lunch, whether it's dinner, pick one meal and veganize it, and do that for a week and see how you feel, explore different options, explore different recipes, and then eventually, you know, in a sustainable manner, continue to bring in different foods, and eventually you will have veganized your whole menu. But I think, and some people, you know, are totally good with just going full on, like cold turkey, I think is what they call it, and just going vegan, and that's great. But I do think for most people, the most sustainable way is slowly adding in and reducing, and then you'll get there.
Totally, totally. Um, I can definitely relate to that. And I guess with my journey, it just happened, I guess you could call it organically, because I was a pescatarian, vegetarian for over 20 years before I switched to veganism. So I'd eliminated what we call meat, but I was still eating what we call seafood and, you know, dairy and eggs. And then after that, I was like, oh my gosh, you know, fish has mercury in it and all that junk. I don't want to eat that. So then I kind of cut that out. And then I was like, well, I'm really lactose intolerant. I don't know why I'm like torturing my body like this. So then I, you know, as a process of elimination, cut out dairy and eggs. So I can definitely see your point. Like, I mean, I would have happily, honestly gone overnight if I understood the full extent of the cruelty and suffering. It's just that, you know, we are presented with these pristine, clean, sanitized packages of animals on the shelf. And we're like, oh yeah, you know, we have no emotional connection to it. We have no knowledge or information, unless, you know, we were lucky enough to stumble across it, because this is not on the 6 o'clock news. You know, this is not in, you know, a fashion magazine or something like that. So, or maybe it is now in fashion magazines. I have no idea, but you know,
Yeah.
but my point is, like, I can definitely see like both approaches, either like overnight or take it slowly.
Yeah, absolutely. Sustainable small steps. And also learning, you know, getting out there and talking to people who are vegan, asking them what their why is, learning the impact of, you know, removing animals and their secretions from your plate, what that can do. And I always say going vegan is like the start. And then once you've made that decision, there's this whole other world that opens, and there's so much to learn. And it's a really cool journey. It's a really cool process. So it's not just like you're vegan and that's it. It's like you're vegan and now continue the growth and continue the journey.
You are so right, because I learned way more after I made the decision to go vegan than I learned before I made the decision. You understand? So you're totally right. Like, I wasn't watching like a whole ton of documentaries, you know, I just did it mainly for health reasons. And then I started like, oh my gosh, there's all of this. So I have to look at my skincare now. You know, I'm not gonna, you know, include, you know, I'm not gonna purchase products if I can help it with, you know, that have animals in it. You know, now if I'm in a hotel and I have no idea what's in the product, that's sitting on the shelf, you know, soap or lotion or whatever. You know, they don't label those things. And so I don't know if I actually, you know, had animals in some product that I was using, but, you know, I do go out of my way to read labels. Same with, you know, furnishings, clothing, skin, you know, jewelry, things like that, you know, make sure, for me anyway, that, you know, there are no animals involved.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing, is a lot of people go vegan for health reasons, and that's great. But again, and I would say they're more, you know, plant-based eaters. And if it's only for the diet reason, that's totally cool. But then when you step into the vegan side and learn about all of the implications of all of these decisions and the choices that we're making, it's a really, really neat step forward and, you know, a big, big, big learning journey.
Totally, totally. So we're almost near the end. But I would like to ask you if you have any future projects, that you want to share with everybody at this time.
Yeah, I'm working on an intuitive eating program for vegans. So I'm super excited. So it'll be a 6-week program, totally self-done. So they don't have to work with me one-on-one. And it will be videos and handouts and resources and information to help someone out of the diet culture and into an intuitive eater so that they can, go out and dismantle those other systems of oppression that that are out there.
No, that's awesome. And especially because everything is online now. Well, almost everything is online. And they can do it at their own pace too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, just going into the new year, still working one-on-one with clients. And I used to love doing wellness talks. And ever since COVID, I haven't been doing those, but hopefully maybe in the new year, sometime in 2021, I'll be back doing that. Yeah.
Now, one question about your 6-week program that you're going to launch. Will there be the option for people to kind of have hand holding as a part of your nutrition coaching in combination with the 6-week plan?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll have both options. So if they do want to work with me one-on-one throughout, that's totally an option. But then for people that are just kind of want to, buy the program and do it themselves, then that will also be an option.
Awesome, awesome. And tell everybody, please, what's the best way for people to contact you if they want information, collaboration, etc.?
Yeah, probably through my website, plantforwardnutrition.com. Shoot me an email, send me a message on Instagram. Those would be the best ways.
Awesome. So, Emily, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to come on and chat with us. And I want to just ask you if there's anything else you want to say before we wrap this up.
I don't think so. We covered a lot, but thank you for having me. It was really fun. Nice talking to you.
Awesome. Well, same for me too. And I want to thank anyone who's watching live or on the replay. And I will save it to IGTV, my feed and stories, and then I will message you after.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Thank you so much, Emily, and take good care. And bye, everybody. Thank you.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.